Yo, what is up, guys? The Ghislaine Maxwell interview, the tapes dropped, and we are about to get into it. This is going to be another multi-part series. There is a lot to cover here. And let me just tell you, just so we're clear from the start, there is no doubt this is part of a cover-up. I have no doubt in my mind. This interview was batshit. By the end of the series, you're going to be able to see it all very clearly. In this first part, we're going to look at the packaging from the DOJ, the sort of setup, some initial impressions, and we're going to listen to Ghislaine's introduction of how she met Jeffrey Epstein. I think this is very important. Pay attention, because this really is the setup that's going to kind of define how we look at the whole piece. That being said, we're about to go on a ride. Trust me. Let's get into it. We're going to go into this, but obviously there are so many holes in this shit because Ghislaine Maxwell is a perjurer. She is a sexual abuser who sexually molested multiple teen girls. She trafficked them for prostitution and sex. Right? She's convicted, 20-year sentence. She's in prison. Obviously, the guy she's exonerating in this is a dude who can significantly impact her chances of getting out of jail. They transferred her to a minimum security facility, which never happens for sex offenders. I mean, this whole thing just stinks to fucking high heaven. I mean, it does. The whole thing is just a scam, con. She's not reliable. You know, it totally bullshit. And dude, the whole thing stinks.
And I'm Ghislaine Maxwell.
Good morning, Ms. Maxwell. How are you?
Good morning, Mr. Black.
Good. Okay, so before we started recording, we met for a few minutes. I introduced myself and we chatted, and now I told you that we were going on the record.
Before we started recording, we fucking chatted. All right. That's a bad sign, but now we're going on the record. Yeah, nope, there you go, dude. Hello. This whole thing is a sham.
We're just talking, and so that's the most important part of this agreement. However, almost as important is the fact that what this agreement does for you is it gives you protection. So what it means is that the government cannot use what you say today against you, with some exceptions, which we'll talk about in a minute. But whatever you talk about today, you have what's called immunity. So that means that the words that you say today, we cannot use against you in a case in chief if we were ever to bring one.
See, what's crazy about this is it's wild how the felons keep getting immunity in the Epstein case, right? But has Todd Blanche gone and met with any of the victims? No, the victims don't get to talk to the DOJ. The victims aren't getting interviewed. The victims, all their files, they're not even getting access to their case. That's being blocked. Okay, but the predators, the ones in prison, Ghislaine Maxwell and of course Jeffrey Epstein, they all get immunity. They all get oh, you're safe. You're safe. You're in good hands here. Can I just say about Ghislaine, we have to talk about the way they gave us these files, because look at this, guys. We have a situation here where they gave us all these tests. Why did they give us 3 short mic tests and then a couple of broken files, right? For example, why didn't they give us one unedited file of the entire Ghislaine Maxwell interview? I think that's a credible question. They gave us a test, and then they give us 6 files from day one. And in day 2, they give us 2 test files and then 4 files from day 2. Okay? But the question being, why did they do it like that? I mean, this is a fair question, because if they wanted transparency, they would have just given one. You have one file. You start the tape, you do the deposition, you end the tape, you release the unedited file. Voila. There you go. But again, what do we have, dude? We have a test.
This is the afternoon test of the recording device.
Okay, thank you.
I see the red light blinking.
Oh, the red light's blinking.
Continuing with the lunch break.
Oh, we're continuing with the lunch break. Oh, you did a test during the lunch break. Okay, all right, hold on. There's one where someone's laughing. You hear that? This is one of the tests where there's just somebody laughing. Dude, what the fuck is that? And on and off with the test.
Light to let you know that it works. Light to let you know that it works. Light to let you know that it
Dude, what are these files that they released, dude? Dude, what is this, bro? Right? Dude, this shit is crazy. But now we have a file that we can actually listen to. They have day one broken up into 7 parts. And they're kind of numbered weird. You have 3, 4, 5. So 1 and 2 were apparently a test in the beginning, maybe 3, 4, 5. Then presumably there's a lunch break. And then you come back with the afternoon test of 6. And then there's 7, 8, 9, 10. But again, the way they have this shit distributed to us was a little bit unusual. It's not at all transparent. It makes you think that, yes, there is something in those gaps. Now, before we get started to this, guys, I do want to draw your attention to the language. Everybody was showing one particular bit of the transcript, and I feel like we do need to talk about this because there was a language thing that I thought was really interesting. So I don't know how familiar you guys are with the way the legal profession works, but when you're a lawyer, the language is very important, okay? Because the question would be like, did you ever observe Donald Trump with underage girls? But look at the question here. Did you ever observe President Trump receive a massage? Now, first off, President Trump, right? Ghislaine Maxwell could say, no, I never saw President Trump receive a massage, but I saw Donald Trump receive a massage when he wasn't president. She could pass a fucking lie detector test with that, right? And again, did you ever observe President Trump receive a massage? Well, I mean, massage was Jeffrey Epstein's thing. So this language here is like really curiously specific. Did you ever observe President Trump receive a massage? Right? Did you ever observe, you said that you were, I mean, have you seen, there's photographs, public photographs of President Trump and Epstein together. And then she says, I never actually saw the president in any type of massage setting. But like, dude, having sex with young girls doesn't have to be a massage setting. The massage setting was specific to Jeffrey Epstein's obsession. And then she said, I never witnessed the president in any inappropriate setting in any way. The president was never inappropriate with anybody in the right. But like to say the president was never inappropriate with anybody, he wasn't president then. And what's more, if he was inappropriate with somebody, she certainly didn't see it. Right? But like, sure, she just sort of like goes in and clears his name without being asked, but the language used is like really unusual because the language was used to set it up for a denial. Because surely, like if you look at Maria Farmer, when she was in Epstein's office at night and Trump came in and Epstein came out and said, she's not here for you, takes Trump in the back room, Ghislaine Maxwell wasn't there and there was no massage, but Trump went into that back room and Trump thought Maria Farmer was for him, right? So there's a lot of this language is just really super specific and leading. And Ghislaine Maxwell is offering this whole Trump was never inappropriate when she wasn't even asked the question. And this, guys, doesn't really happen, okay? Because like right here, guys, when Ghislaine Maxwell like leads in there and says, oh, I never saw the Trump, a normal deposition, the lawyer would say, whoa, 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 like, stop, I didn't ask you a question there. Or they would like then follow up with the question about inappropriate and get more and more specific.
I did ask him did tell him that I was very keen to talk to anyone, because no one from the government at any time ever since the inception of the case, so dating back to the early 2000s, has ever spoken to me. And indeed, I believe ever reached out to me at any time to even speak to me. And that includes up to when I was indicted and prosecuted. I believe that, or I understand, I should say, rather, that my attorneys at the time did tell the government that I wanted to speak to them because I was very keen to meet with anyone so that I could tell or have them ask me any question. I've never had any problem to speak to anybody, and I offered myself, and I kept asking if they would meet with me so that I could talk to them, and for whatever reason.
See, what's wild about this is she could have testified at her trial, right? She's like, oh, no one from the government has ever wanted to speak to me. It's like, oh, why didn't you just take the stand at your trial then? You know what I mean? She's like, oh, I just want to talk to the government. No one's ever wanted to talk to me. They just prosecuted me.
Okay.
That was not happening.
Okay. I have questions that I want to ask you, but I'm not, if there's a question that I'm not asking that you think should be asked, I invite you to volunteer. Same thing goes to your lawyers.
See, this is wild right there, this part. He's like, I have some questions, but hey, if you want to volunteer anything or there's a path you want to take, you guys, it's a free for all, right? No lawyer ever in the history of a deposition or interview has ever gone in and said, hey man, I have some questions, but if you want to just go off on some sort of tangent, free for all, like, yeah, you just go ahead. You just pile in, right? You know what I mean? Dude, nobody, no lawyer said no lawyer ever. Dude, or like her lawyers just being like you only answer what they ask you, right? Everything about this is wildly like not a normal law proceeding at all.
Just to start a little bit very briefly, can you talk about when you first met Mr. Epstein? I know that goes back a while, and just very generally talk about your relationship with Mr. Epstein from the time you met him all the way up until his death.
Okay, let's stop right there. Why the fuck would they be asking that question? Why would Donald Trump's lawyer go to meet with a woman who's in prison for 20 years, right, and ask her the question of very just generally from the time you met him until his death? Why don't you just give me a rundown of like, right, they're like trying to get Ghislaine Maxwell to set the official Jeffrey Epstein story where she's going to be like, oh, I met him and like, oh yeah, like bloody, right? The fuck is this? You know what I mean? Like, why would they even ask this question? Very briefly, like, tell us his whole life story of you guys. Yeah, very generally, give us the synopsis. And she's like, oh yeah, well, oh, I met Jeffrey. He's a marvelous guy. Next thing you know, I'm in jail. Oh, he had a sex addiction. I had nothing to do with it. Trump had nothing to do with it, right? Nothing nefarious went on. There was no list. No powerful people did anything. This whole thing is really just, I don't know what happened, right? Dude, this is like wild, boss.
I met Mr. Epstein in 1991. I'd never heard of him or met him before, and no one in my family had ever either. My father never knew him. And
oh, you see that set up? I had never heard of him. No one in my family had ever heard of him. My father had never heard of him. Dude!
I had also been working for my father at the time. I had multiple jobs with him. I was, in 1990, I was working with a new company of his, a new newspaper that he was launching called The European. And I was in charge of launching a magazine. It's true to say that my father always wanted me to come back full-time and work for him, but that's a much longer story I don't think we need to go into at this time. So, but I was always working with him. Well, there was no escaping, as it were, to work for him. So in 1990, I had come over to New York to help look at some of that. He was having some advertising issues with the New York Daily News, and in fact, I may have met Donald Trump at that time. Because
okay, so she said in 1990, in fact, I may have met Donald Trump at that time because my father was friendly with him and liked him very much. Dude, she's totally lying, okay? You know what I'm saying? Like, dude, I may have met, oh yeah, my father liked him, yeah, all right. Dude, he'd been on their yacht.
My father was friendly with him and liked him very much, and I think it should be said that he also very much liked Ivana, because she was also from Czechoslovakia, where my dad was from. So I don't remember if I did meet him or not in 1990 with my dad, but I knew that that's how I knew about Mr. Trump.
And this was before you met?
This was before I met Mr. Epstein. Yes. Okay. Right. So I was already going backwards and forwards in America, and then
So she does admit that she knew Trump before Epstein, even though she's being a little evasive about, oh, I may have met him. That's how I knew of him. But, dude.
April of 1991, I came to New York. I can't remember for what reason, what business reason, but there was a business reason, something to do with my dad at that time. And a girlfriend of mine, an American, told me I'd broken up with I'd been engaged, with a very long-term boyfriend, and we'd broken up. And she said, well, I got, as your girlfriends do, I've got a guy for you to meet. And I was like, who is it? And she goes, he's been dating my sister, and you'll love him, he's looking for a wife. I'm edging towards 30, I don't need to tell you guys that's a very important moment for a girl, just to think about important things. Sure, I'd be happy to meet him. And so sometime in 1991, we're in 1991, I met him at his offices on Madison Avenue. And I think the most memorable thing I can think about that is he was wearing a tie, which he didn't often do, and it had a giant tomato ketchup stain on it. So I was like, wow, okay. And that.
So she's talking about Epstein here, right? She's, I guess, saying her friend set her up with him as like a date, and she met him in an office. Yeah, dude, I don't know, dude. This is not really this is not wowing me at all, right? He has a fucking tie with a ketchup stain. Dude, what?
That was how we met.
Was your meeting at his office for you to meet him just personally, or were you there for work-related reasons?
No, I knew nothing about him. Okay. He just invited me to come and have tea at him. And I was like, tea, that's English, okay. But what was unusual was in his offices. So I went to his offices and we met. And I found him very engaging, and that was that.
Okay, so that's how you meet him. So, and again, I don't want to spend a lot of time, on this particular issue, but what happened with your relationship over the years, from the time you meet him in 1991 up until the time he passed away.
So, dude, how did you meet Jeffrey Epstein? Oh, he didn't know any of my family. She's cleared the family, cleared Robert Maxwell. Ostensibly, if there is some type of intelligence connection, she's like now saying, nope, not through my dad, right? And I kind of knew who Trump was, but my dad loved Trump, but I didn't really know Trump, yada, yada. Oh, then my friend sets me up with this Jeffrey Epstein guy. And now they're like, give us the highlights from then until he died. Dude, what are we doing, bro? Like, this is the most astroturfed deposition experience I think I've ever seen in my life.
Okay, so I was looking for real estate for my dad to buy some, and Epstein told me that he was also looking to move from his apartment, and would I help him? And I said, sure, I'm looking already, so I could look for him. So that's how it started.
Okay, here's another thing that I find weird, guys. Why is she calling him Epstein in this deposition? Right? You know what I'm saying? Like, do you find that weird? That, like, I'm sure she called him Jeffrey. I don't think she ever referred to him. He was her fucking boyfriend. And they dated for a while, and they were business partners. And even with Trump, Trump was like, when Jeffrey calls, we don't even use his last name. They never used his last name. Everybody knew him as Jeffrey, right? Even Trump, okay? And now she's like referring to him, and Epstein told me he was looking. It is like she's referring to him like she's outside of it. You know what I'm saying? She's referring to him like that's a really weird detail, guys, right? She didn't even mention his name, like, but she is now referring to him like he's this other entity. There's something, the whole setup of this is that's a tell. That's a very weird thing for her to refer to him as Epstein. That is super bizarre. What is up, guys? Thank you so much for watching. You like the video, you want to support independent resistance media, you know what to do. Drop that sub, hit the like button, and please share it. And we do love our members, so if you want to become a member, it's another really great way to support. Thanks again for everything, guys. I'll see you next time. Let's go.